What's going on, Dolphins fans? It is your boy Dillon, and it's a new week. New stuff going on, new practices and stuff like that. So there's some news to get to, some injury stuff to talk about, updates on some players and whatnot. Some good news. There is some good news. So we'll get to that in a second. I'm just going to go through my little stream here, my news stream on Bleacher Report, and get to all the things that I think are, important and relevant. So first thing is Barry Jackson had tweeted out, during final 2 weeks of preseason, NFL teams are required to either 1. Allow reporters in the locker room, or 2. Open up full practice to reporters. Dolphins have chosen door number 1, so they're allowing the reporters into the locker room. So beyond open first 30 minutes of practice, Dolphins reporters practice tweets are over until next May. So what he's saying there is they're not going to get to follow like the actual practice. The practice itself is not going to be live. They're only going to get to, really talk to the guys for like, half an hour prior to, practice beginning. So they just get like little interviews and stuff. Also, so, I know probably other people aren't. I'm going to be following this whole, drama thing going on, and the protests, the social protests that, the players do. Kenny still does, right? Because it's still relevant, and it's still, a lot going on. Colin Kaepernick tells Eric Reed, K. Stills, and Albert Wilson to stay strong. Yeah, because Albert Wilson's also part of that, right? Let's see. So, as it stands, the quarterback competition is still open. According to Brian Flores, but he's saying that, it's still open. Ryan Fitzpatrick looks like he's going to start, but that doesn't, against the Jaguars on Thursday, which is our next game. But he's saying that doesn't necessarily mean that Josh Rosen will not start, that Fitzpatrick will start over him when, we play the Baltimore Ravens coming week 1. So, we'll see how that goes. I mean, I think personally that Fitzpatrick is going to end up being the starter. And I think he's going to be the starter probably for a few weeks, until the offensive line, really, the offensive line, I feel, is going to be a struggle and a problem the whole year. But I feel like Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to end up going in for the first few weeks until he either gets hurt because of the offensive line, or because he's just, playing so poorly behind them. I don't think they think that Rosen is really ready to take that yet, but he will at some point play. And it's possible too that, at some point, 2 or 3, 4 weeks in, they pull Fitzpatrick because he's injured, right? Quote unquote. Maybe he gets, a little banged up, but they're like, we're going to go ahead and, put Josh Rosen in and just say that his injury is a little worse than it is. So that way we have an excuse, so people don't fucking, shit on us, whatever. But, knowing the Dolphins fan base and stuff, they wouldn't even really need that, because, if we play shitty and we're losing games and so on and so forth, then people are going to get just impatient, and they're just going to be like, oh, put Josh Rosen. I guarantee it. Right? So that's actually how I see things playing out. Like I said, I think Fitzpatrick's going to end up being the quarterback. I think that the offensive line is going to be atrocious, and so he's going to be bad behind the offensive line. He's going to end up coming out after a few weeks to put Rosen in, either because he gets injured for real, he gets injured, or because, you know, the fan base is just clamoring for a change because he's, you know, doing so poorly. But we'll see. Brian Flores also does not guarantee Albert Wilson will play this week versus Jacksonville. So, you know, Albert Wilson may still be out. I mean, that's good if he still needs time to get healthy, right? Like, I'd rather him be fully healthy when he comes back. But at the same time, I mean, just like, you know, like in last week's game, you know, we were out a ton of guys in the starting lineup, right? Like, both on offense and defense, which is not good because, you know, that means that we've got, you know, a ton of injury problems already. And, you know, with guys like Jakeem Grant and Albert Wilson, obviously they were already injured. I don't think that they have new injuries, right? They're still trying to get 100% healthy from those injuries, but they were pretty significant injuries. It was a pretty major foot injury. From my understanding, a near Achilles tear. He didn't tear it, but it was pretty badly hurt, Jakeem Grant. And then Albert Wilson obviously had a hip injury, and those are pretty big things for guys that do what they do, right? You know, not just as receivers, but they're supposed to be really fast, right? That's kind of like their hallmark, their trademark, right, is being fast. So, you know, getting back to 100% can be difficult. So I do want them to be, but that doesn't help us, right? Because, you know, we need guys healthy, right? Like, I was reading articles and there was one saying, you know, a healthy Dolphins defense could be exciting to watch. True, I think that's the case, but already they're pretty banged up. So, you know, and we haven't even reached the season yet. So saying, you know, a healthy Dolphins defense could be exciting is, you know, I mean, one, it's, you know, we're already getting, you know, like half of our linebackers are already, you know, injured to some degree. And, you know, I mean, it's just like, it's like a hopeful thing. Like, it's a wishful thing, but, you know, it's a wish and a hope that you're setting yourself up for like failure and disaster, because, all it is like a pipe dream, right? Because, like, yeah, okay, sure, we can say, yeah, man, you know, I hope the entire defense stays healthy so that way they can, you know, all the starters can be there, and if they are, then damn it, I think they're going to be really good. But that's not going to be the case. People are already hurt. They're going to get hurt more, right, throughout the season. I mean, that's just how it goes. It's football. And it also doesn't even take into account other things that are important pieces of context in that conversation or that thought process, right? Like, for example, how is the offense going to perform, right? Because, again, and I've said this time and time again, if the offense shits the bed and doesn't do anything and constantly goes 3 and out, you know, whatever, turns the ball over, blah, 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 then the defense is going to constantly have to be on the field. They're going to get worn down, which is going to cause them to have more injuries because they're playing so much, and there'll be a huge gap and disparity between playing time of offense and defense, and then everything's just going to crumble, right? So, anyway, let me keep going on here because there's a bit to talk about. He'll be out there as soon as he can. Maybe that's this week. Maybe that's not. That's more about Albert Wilson from Flores. Flo says some starters will play on special teams, linebackers on punt, receivers on punt return. Minka has played on punt all preseason. Some starters, you know, I wonder if, I mean, I didn't get to see the actual, like, interview or anything. By the way, I'm still trying to figure out my situation with that. I know I haven't been able to get you guys the interviews in a while. I'm sorry. I am still working on that, trying to figure that out. So bear with me. I hope I can get it figured out. I should be able to at some point, one way or the other. It's just that the issue with it is, you know, the program I was using before to like record the videos. Like somehow I managed to get it free last time. I can't seem to find it this time, so I need to find a way if I can like bring it over from my other computer and still use it without having to pay for it. Otherwise I got to figure out a way to pay for it. So anyway, let's see. Flores on Rosen. He's got to continue to improve on things he's done well. He can't take as many sacks as he's taken. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that was on the offensive line. And there was even during the game, if you guys were with me for my live stream, there was a sack that Rosen took that initially I was like, no, he should have gotten the ball away. But then upon replay, I looked at it when it was slowed down and I could see it a little better. No, he was smart to take the sack in that case, because the pocket crumbled. He had to step up. When he went to step up, I mean, he was already almost, getting... the defender almost had gotten to him at that point, but he steps up in the pocket and then almost immediately thereafter he's already getting wrapped up by the defender, and so he wouldn't have had the ability to pull the football back and then also have a motion coming forward. He wouldn't have had any time to get a release, no kind of accuracy, and there would be a high probability that it would have ended up in a fumble, or if he did get the ball off, some sort of interception. So, I actually liked that he took the sack there. So like that's the thing is it's not all on him. Now I would agree that I would still say that his posture, his shoulders, a lot of his, there were times where his footing wasn't off. So Brian Flores was saying that, he needs to be better with his body language. And I think that is still very much the case. And it showed, pretty clearly in this past game, but that's not all his fault, right? Because the offensive line is garbage. So anyway, Brian Flores, Josh Rosen has to have command of the offense and has to get the ball out quicker. So he's saying, the thing is though, is I wouldn't agree that, right? Because these are Brian Flores' words. So Josh Rosen can't take as many sacks. I mean, that's not a super clear statement, so I don't know exactly what he means. But I wouldn't, it kind of sounds as if he's saying all or most of the sacks are on him and Rosen's fault, but I wouldn't say that, right? So but this is coming from his head coach. Has to have command of the offense. So apparently he's saying that he doesn't have, a great command of the offense yet and has to get the ball out quicker. Well, that's hard, again, behind an offensive line that sucks super bad. And also, he's proven, and one of his weaknesses is, making proper reads and stuff like that. So, we'll see how that plays out. Let's see. What else? Brian Flores also did mention about the starting offensive line. So I guess, like I said, ideally you want to have that done prior to preseason week 1, so that way they can get as much time together as possible, and build as much continuity, chemistry, cohesiveness, all the C's, right, that you need on the offensive line. And, but I guess we know now, right, who it's going to be. And, but, to be fair, this lineup was who I believe was out there last week. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this group was out there with the starters last week. So they did have them set for week 2, to be fair. But I guess they just decided on who it's going to be. But anyway, so Armando Salguero tweeted this. Flo says he feels good about the 5 guys starting on offensive line now, which is Tunsil, left tackle, which we already knew. Left guard is Dieter. Center is Kilgore, which we knew. Right guard is Shaq Calhoun, and then Jesse Davis is right tackle. So, and obviously Dieter and Calhoun are both rookies, but Brian Flores says he feels good about that. And so, maybe he does, and maybe he does from the perspective of that he doesn't feel like any of the other guys, deserve those positions or roles over, the backups over the guys that are there. I mean, if he's being honest with himself, and like, I can't imagine that he actually feels good with, the performance. And it's even, partly evident because he was talking about all the sacks. Like, I don't imagine he feels like Josh Rosen was actually accountable for all the sacks and all the pressures and stuff, because he wasn't. But he's using really vague, terms here, very vague sentencing. Like, he's not being super specific, but that's coach speak. That's they say things super vague so that way they can play both sides of the fence, right? So he's saying, I feel really good about the 5 guys out there, but that's leaving the rest of the sentence out, right? But I don't have faith in, or rather, I like it's or not really even the rest of the sentence, because you can leave it there obviously, but the rest of the context, right? So meaning I have confident, or I like the offensive line that's out there now, because I don't think that anybody else has stepped up to prove they deserve the spot. But at the same time, the guys that are out there, well, most of them haven't really performed well. Although, to be fair, Pro Football Focus did rate Michael Dieter with like a 91 overall grade. So, again, to be fair, I mean, that's... I don't always agree with Pro Football Focus. I do think it's a piece of context, and I do use them from time to time to give, examples, but I gotta be fair and I gotta be consistent. So if I'm going to use those kinds of things when they come about and I see them, I gotta give them, and whether it proves my point or not, right? So that is a good sign for Michael Dieter, but at the same time, you do gotta take that with a grain of salt, for multiple different reasons. They didn't play the entire game. He had a false start that he got lucky on. It got essentially negated because of the end of the first quarter, but he definitely had a false start, without question. So, I mean, there's stuff that goes in, and I'm pretty sure, that doesn't go into, whether they count penalties or not, and part of their evaluation at Pro Football Focus. That one certainly wouldn't have counted, because it didn't actually even count in the game. The flag just ended up getting picked up because the quarter ended, right? So, but there was a clear false start. The commentators were talking about it. I saw it. You can go replay the tape. He came up off the line before the ball was snapped, and it was totally him. So anyway, Flores on pass rush. I thought Charles Harris played really well the other night. As a group, we played well. Our pursuit to the quarterback was good. Yeah. Tank Carradine has been coming along, and Charles Harris did some good things in this past game. We just need to see that consistency, right? So that's the big thing. Brian Flores is impressed with Jesse Davis as a leader. That's good. We got to be ready if something happens. The wheels can't fall off. That's Flores on being position flexible with the offensive lines. Yeah, and so that's good, right? But you also, the thing is though too, I totally agree that having position flexibility on the offensive line is good. But I mean, really ideally, in a most ideal world, you have a really good starting 5. They never get injured or anything. They just always play, and they always perform, really well. But obviously, that's not how things, generally work. People do get hurt, even if it's just for a game or maybe just a period or something, right? Like a quarter, right? Guys will come out at some point. And so, but ideally in that case, you want to have backups who have designated roles, so you know exactly who is going to come in. And furthermore, you want, those backups to be quality enough that there isn't a stark drop off, right? a big problem, position versatility is good, but a big problem often comes, and we've seen this with the Dolphins, when not only do you have to sub guys out because of the fact that somebody gets injured and bring in a backup, but then you're also shuffling the offensive line around. That exacerbates the problem. But the reason why you do that is because you want to get the best 5 on the field. So, let's say you so last year we lose Sitton, right? So that's our left guard. So we had a starting 5 that was solid, that proved they could do some good things, right? And that allowed our offense to actually operate. Tunsil, Sitton, Kilgore, Davis, and Juwan James. So Sitton comes out, right? And not only did we bring a guy, and then obviously Kilgore goes out, Tunsil and James both had timeout, but not only did guys have to come in to replace them, but we also had to start moving guys around on the offensive line. And we've seen that for years with the team, right? And so it makes that continuity and cohesiveness even more difficult to achieve. And then, then you're taking players that, like Jesse Davis, right? He had played, guard this whole time. Now he's all of a sudden playing tackle, so we'll see how that goes. It is on the same side though, and he has also had to go from right guard to left guard, which is pretty, it's the same position on the different side, but there is a big difference because you use different techniques, or maybe, similar techniques, but it's to a different side. So your hand placement has to be different, right? Depending on which side you're on, right. So a lot, and then obviously you have to move in certain ways based off of so it makes things a lot more complicated and a lot less likely to come together how you would want it to. Let's see. He talked about Patrick Laird. He works hard. He's done everything we asked. He's done everything right. He's earned some more opportunities, and he's taken advantage of them. So, yeah. Matthew Kanata had tweeted out, the starting offensive line is Tunsil, Dieter, Kilgore, Calhoun, and Davis. And then Ian Kenyon retweeted him and said Josh Rosen is going to get David Card out of the league. So what he's saying there is that he's going to get, essentially he's going to have some of the same problems that David Carr had, but it's going to it's going to end up pushing him out of the league. Look, I mean, Josh Rosen, I've said Josh Rosen has skill. He's got talent. He's got ability. He could be a good quarterback in this league, but he also does have some pretty, glaring flaws in his game. His inability to make proper reads and stuff like that. His body language. There's a lot of things. Now again, he can clean those things up, but not when he's behind an offensive line that doesn't give him the ability to do that, right? And this is also one of the reasons why I feel like Ryan Tannehill, I know people hate this, but I don't care, or why he got misevaluated, because his stats and everything show that he did good things, and then he constantly developed and improved. His work ethic was there. He said and did all the right things. He played almost every game except for unfortunate serious injury, right? Nobody could help that. Calais Campbell's fucking head came colliding with his knee, and his knee got injured. Like, you can't help that. It's just football. But that doesn't make him injury prone. And in fact, he's been, a man of steel. He even had that title for so long because he was so consistently in there, despite the fact he would, play, having, at the end of, I believe it was 15, pissing blood, right? So, but anyway, but the reason why, though, is because you can't, he was because he took a lot of the blame for the terrible offensive line in front of him, right? He would constantly get shit on because he was always under pressure and getting sacked all the time. But it's not all his fault. The offensive line, some of it was, sure. But that's the thing, though, is Ryan Tannehill, like last year, Josh Rosen proved that behind a terrible offensive line, he doesn't play well, right? And so, you know, I mean, look, I just don't know why. I don't understand how people can argue this, because it's flat out fact. In Tannehill's rookie season, like if you compare Tannehill's rookie season to Josh Rosen's rookie season, Tannehill way outperformed Josh Rosen, and they both had super shitty offensive lines, right? So, I mean, anyway. But his point is that he's essentially saying what I'm saying. You know, Rosen is not set up in a situation right now to have success, right? Because he doesn't have, you know, what he needs around him to properly develop and properly be evaluated. Anyway, whatever. I'm moving on. You guys get it. So, anyway, like I said, there is some good injury news. So Jakeem Grant is practicing, was practicing today. Not practicing though, McDonald, McMillan, Parker, Drake, Van Ginkel, Alonzo, Chase Allen, Allen Hurns, Walt Aikens, and Albert Wilson. So, I mean, again though, still, but the only one on that list, Albert Wilson, is the only guy that had an injury already. So that means, McDonald, McMillan, Devontae Parker, Drake, Van Ginkel, Alonzo, Chase Allen, and Allen Hurns, and Walt Aikens all have new injuries, right? But why wouldn't they be practicing, right? Like you might say if it wasn't an injury, right? So like you might say they were kept out of the game just because, but why? You need your starters to get time together, so that doesn't even make sense. But why would you then keep them out of practice if they're not injured? So, I'm just saying, because some people might be like, oh, well, maybe they're being held out of practice, but it's not an injury. Well, we would know that because they would designate them as non-injury list. There's a list for or there's a designation for being held out if it's not an injury, and then there's also a designation for being held out if it's an injury but not football related. So maybe something, out in your personal life that happened, right? Like if you, I don't know, maybe you fall down a stairs and you fucking break something. I don't know. So here's more, let's see. Devontae Parker and Kenyon Drake, who is battling a right foot injury, are not practicing. Parker missed a few practices in last week's game with an undisclosed injury. Kalen Ballage, who was held out of last week's game, is working today. So look, dude, I mean, we have tons, to my points on Parker real quick. So see, look, there was a bunch of hype about Parker this offseason, but he's already injured again, right? Already. So, and then to, another one of my points, one of my greater points, we have so many guys, important guys that are injured, right? And so like Kalen Ballage had a little bit of an injury. He's back now, which is good, but Drake's injured with a right foot injury. He's a running back. He needs his foot, right? Mark Walton would be the next guy up if those two guys can't go. But, Mark Walton has had some off the field issues. In fact, he just did some settlement or whatever. I think that's in here somewhere. Jakeem Grant working on side with trainers for now, or doing individual drills. But I mean, look, it's not good that we're already this injured with this many key players. It doesn't spell good things for for things going forward. Rashad Jones and Grant are back at practice. That's good. Allen Hurns not practicing. Yep. Grant is practicing, but with a trainer. Wilson's still out. Rashad Jones is back with the Dolphins. Been sidelined for 3 weeks with a foot issue. Yep. TJ McDonald's still sidelined by undisclosed injury. Omar Kelly tweeted out this picture with a tweet saying, with a caption saying, well, the Dolphins O-line is working on cut blocking. Know what that means? I'll tell you what that means. I'm not an expert on football. I'm not a coach, but I know what that means. When your offensive line starts cut blocking, and you gotta be careful with cut blocking, because you can get penalties called on you, for it. And depending on how you execute it and so on and so forth. But when they start doing that, that means that they're not actually all that confident in your abilities to block in your normal techniques and your regular techniques, because cut blocking is dangerous. It's essentially taking out the dude's legs so that way you eliminate that player from the play, that defensive player. So a defensive tackle or whatever it is, you cut block, you take the dude's legs out from under him. And generally some teams or some players like to just do it, because they like to be, I don't know, dirty's what comes to mind, but, or they just like to have that nasty, attitude or whatever. But oftentimes it's because, the players are getting beat in just their normal techniques, right? So they start employing cut blocking because like, well, man, we're not really sure that you can get the job done if you just get the proper pad level with your hands in the right place, and you got to be quick enough off the ball and stuff like that. We're not really sure, so we're gonna just have you, dive at the ground and dive at their legs and try and take them out. Like, that's not really a good thing, right? Dolphins receiver Isaiah Ford was carted off the practice field with his left ankle wrapped up, grimacing in pain, which is not good. More injuries. I can't imagine how anybody takes all of this information that we have and like puts it all together and is like, yeah, man, we're gonna have a really good year. It's super disingenuous, and it's super like lying to yourself. Like, it's disingenuous for the people who, for the, like I said, I like the other guys. I think they mean well and stuff, but the other part, whenever they talk about super optimistically, blah, 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 we're going to have a good year, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's disingenuous, and they're not being honest with themselves, and they're not being honest with their viewers, because that's just not what the data, it's not what the data says, man. And I could be wrong, but but again, we've got tons of injuries already, haven't even gotten to the season. And the first game was all right. It was solid overall, but still showed, and as I had said then, and saying now, there were, some pretty, big things that shone through that were, would be considered weaknesses, flaws, things they need to really work on and improve. But last week it became even more evident. Last week's game was just, the offense was just total garbage. The defense played well overall, but my point got proven. They started breaking down more so in the later parts of the game, as they got worn out and stuff. And it's going to happen throughout the season. Let's see. A good team is built on everyone wanting to be a starter, everyone to be a good communicator. That was Sam McGuavian. He's been doing a lot of really good things. He is certainly a bright spot, and he's had an opportunity since, a lot of our linebackers are injured right now. So, Isaiah Ford said he's fine. It was just a cramp. So hopefully that's the case. Because, man, we like, right? Because like right now, like we have so many dudes injured right now and not practicing, not playing, that like it feels right now, but it's only preseason. It feels like last year though, and already, and that's just, it's not good, and it doesn't bode well, because God damn it, again, we haven't even started the season. It's a long season, and guys are going to get injured. Let's see. So, Kenny Stills did talk to reporters and stuff like that, and he's not very happy with the way, because they asked him a lot of questions, about the drama and all about all the stuff going on, but he said that he's not really happy with the way that Jay-Z is handling so far. He said, to be fair, he said, we got to be patient and see what they actually do, see what, kind of things that they, actually put forward here. But here's what he said. This was a good summation tweet from Omar Kelly. To summarize Kenny Stills' conversation with the media regarding the Rock Nation partnership with the NFL, Stills encouraged patience. Are they going to do real work in these communities, or are they going to do what the NFL always does, which is check the box? Because that is what the NFL always does. They always give just, a tiny, and again, I mean, this because the NFL is a business, and it really stems from a bigger problem, which ties into politics, because this is how our government works. This is how, business in America works. I mean, our government and our laws and everything are written by big corporations, essentially, because our politicians are all corrupt. But the point is that just like our government does with the people as a whole in this country, the NFL does with the players and stuff as well. They give them these tiny breadcrumbs and be like, see, look at what we did. We did something, right? But it's never anywhere close to enough, right? Like the pass interference thing. And, a lot of people are saying that it's, already starting to cause problems. But for, part of the reason, one article I was reading was saying part of the reason is because of, some things I said. Like, you need to have, everything needs to be reviewable. Anyway, but so, breadcrumbs, man, and it's not good enough. Regarding Miami Dolphins running back Mark Walton, the league has been monitoring developments in his matter. Yeah, because he's had some off the field stuff. He did just, I don't think that up to this point there hasn't been anything saying that he's gonna have any ramifications or discipline from the league, but I get that apparently the league is monitoring it, so we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, so if I guess worst case scenario, if he got some kind of suspension, man, that would be really bad for our running back group, because if Kalen Ballage, and I mean, Ballage is back apparently today, so that's good. But Drake is still injured for sure. And if Kalen Ballage gets injured again, re-injures, whatever, and then if Mark Walton for some reason was suspended because of his off-the-field stuff, not saying he's going to, and there hasn't even been any suggestion of that, but I'm just saying worst case scenario, that would be pretty bleak for our running back room, and then again our offense as a whole, because then, man, not only would you have underperforming bad offensive line, but then you don't have running backs to help out there. It would get pretty bad. Anyway, I think I've talked enough for today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you guys do enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.